of an oversell. Well, let me just set the bar lower. I'm really excited that there are more people here than just my one employee who I gave the day off to come and see me. And excited to talk to you guys. I sort of identify a little bit like as a non-traditional. I'm sure all of us in this room do. I think that's really important. I'm not going to tell you why, but I'll tell you at the end. But I think it's great to be non-traditional. That's the yippee. That's the only animation in the whole slide deck. Okay. So, quick review of my resume and what you would learn about if you looked at my resume, that it makes me, maybe seem non-traditional. I got my BFA in sculpture, and then went on to live and work in India during the middle of the housing crash here, which hit later there. I was designing a restaurant, and then there was no money left, and we ended up starting a sort of LinkedIn for hippies, because I was an artist, right? So you need something in the middle. So that's how I started in tech. It didn't go very well, because it turns out starting a company with hippies in the middle of India isn't really like starting a company in Silicon Valley. So I worked with some other sort of small firms, and I started working in the arts more, and I was in the auction house industry. Lehman Brothers collapsed. We liquidated all of their assets. I thought to myself, wow, how did that happen? I have no idea. Because I had no idea, I decided to go get my MBA. Because it made me really uncomfortable to have massive systemic things happening and I just didn't understand it all. So I went and got my MBA, and then I entered into strategy and transformation. I did that at IBM, and I was I worked on energy and utilities, new energy work, and I realized it matters to me, the work that I do does something mildly, reasonably good for the world. And I was lucky in that I had a chance to do it. I didn't look for it. I wasn't out looking for a nonprofit. I was a strategy consultant. I was code word for douchebag, I mean, I just stumbled into accidentally working on new energy stuff. It was really interesting, but I always loved research, and I've always had a love for science and research. And when IBM launched its artificial intelligence unit, Watson, several years ago at this point, they asked me to lead the research for how you would use artificial intelligence in energy and utilities. And I had asked myself a question, which was, how would you do that? And more importantly, how should you do that? And I realized nobody else yet at the company had really thought about it. And because nobody else had thought about it, it meant that whatever I wrote set the standard. That's what people were going to work off of. So I went out, I was hiking in the woods. That was the weekend I decided to be gay and start dating my girlfriend. She was awesome, and I was like, holy shit, Laura, I think I just figured out something really important. I think you could fix climate change if you used artificial intelligence right. I was like, this could change everything. And she sort of looked at me and she's like, well, do something about it. I was like, no, I don't want to, it's too scary. That's a lot of responsibility, I don't want to. She's like, Zoe, come on, get out there. So I wrote about it. And anyway, I submitted it to IBM's global practice, and they wrote me back and offered me a job to come do this across many industries. Come put together the point of view of what the hell we should do with artificial intelligence across lots of industries. And that was a really interesting experience, and I'll get more into that. But the point of the matter is, even if you just looked at my resume, what you would have seen is basically, she got her BFA in sculpture, and then she was a strategy consultant, and now she's in tech, which would probably make you go, huh? But, the reality is that's just this very small part of me, but unfortunately it's a very large part of how we evaluate each other. These stats, right? Where'd you go to school? What have you worked in before? Those become these stats that you sort of track, and it doesn't fill the whole view of kind of who you are. This is a real live IBM slide. See? Real live IBM slide. That's not the title we usually use. We just say cognitive systems are creating new partnership between humans and technology. There's something very interesting and disturbing about this slide to me. I use this slide as inspiration almost every day. So it says cognitive systems excel at locating knowledge, natural language, machine learning, eliminating bias. We can talk about that in a minute. And humans, all of us here, apparently we excel at common sense, morals, imagination, compassion, abstraction, dilemmas, dreaming, generalization. But when was the last time that KPIs that you reported on for work had any of these as a line? When was the last time that was a major you could get in college? It's not. It's not, because we're still training people for things that were a reality 40 years ago, not today. And this stuff is mostly real. I mean, there's some interesting questions in here. But this is true. And computers are able to do a lot more today than they could do before. So if we're making artificial intelligence machines I can tell you, me and my colleague here, Morgan, are doing it literally every day. And replacing old jobs that used to do this stuff with computers that can do it better. They're like, why the hell are we spending a whole lot more time over here as people? And starting to have jobs that are like chief of dreaming, you know? Chief officer of compassion. Like, I love that idea, you know? And so, like, I just think we have to take a different picture of what matters. And to do that, we have to stop thinking of like the boxes, the jobs that we go into as things like product, finance, right? I'm a senior offering manager. Hello, nice to meet you all. That's not who I am. And when I went into grad school, Spox was originally, I made this slide, I changed it since, but I originally made this slide when I was talking to MBAs, because they do the same thing to MBAs. You're in HR, right? You're in consulting, you're in finance. And people try to shove you into boxes and make that how you are defined. Make that your identity. But none of this tells you how you're going to use technology. None of it. All it says is that you're gonna build some. And that's just not enough, like for me as a person. And luckily, when I was sort of, in grad school, I didn't fit into any boxes, and so I had to go do some deep self-reflection. And I realized I had to redefine myself by things that were true to who I was, that weren't part of these boxes. Creative, collaborative, curious. Since then it's been things like feminist, queer, fucking hating human suffering and just wanting to like deal with getting rid of some of that. Climate change changer, like things like that have started to make me motivated to go to work and to live my life. So if we want to be better here, it seems to me like there's stuff that has to happen outside the slice that we currently measure. And that needs to be more of a priority, more discussed, more measured, more discussed. Not this part, right? I call these things like personality, values, skills, but I think we all know, like, you're all queer, so you know what I'm talking about, like, it's all this good stuff, right? For me, like, how I got there, I was an artist. I don't know, any of you, has anybody here ever trained as a fine artist? Awesome, okay, so there are like 3 people here who have probably done something like this experiment, which is sitting in a white box for 4 years. This is actually what happens, guys. You sit in a white box for 4 years, and they're like, make things that are important. Actually, they don't even tell you that. They just say, make things. And it takes about a year to realize what you're trying to do is make something that's important. And you have to figure out, you have to define for yourself what important is. For me, I got to this place where I said, I want to make things beautiful. Like, I want to reduce suffering and enhance beauty. That's like what I'm going for as a human. So I made some stuff. I got there because I had both a lot of beauty and a lot of suffering in my life. And I think, I won't go through the whole story, but this is my data visualization of the amount of like suffering and happiness I had in my life. The first time I gave this talk, I was here. When I updated this slide for you guys, I realized I'm like at one of the best points in my life, and that's something to cherish and like really enjoy. So, we can talk about, if you're interested in suffering or like, resilience, we can talk about this later. I'm happy to tell you my life story, but like, I have like 10 minutes, so. I told you guys I was curing cancer, so actually wasn't my title, let's just be clear. Okay, so this was one of the projects I did when I was an artist, right? When I was doing the suffering beauty thing. This is just twine. It's a gigantic human hammock over a courtyard that people could play underneath and roll down. Made with just basic household twine. I was sort of interested in like really, really normal things. How do you animate those and change people's behavior to create joy, right? To create beauty, to create something nice versus the suffering or banality. And this brings me to the really hippie version of my talk, the really hippie portion, which is your aura. Okay, so what I define as your aura is that you can't just think about these things and believe in your heart that it's important to have more beauty or less suffering. It's really important that you actually do something to like do that in your life. And as people who are in tech, I think this is one of the most important things, because all the decisions we make in tech get amplified. That's the part of tech that's so wild. You make one decision on one app and it makes one experience feel different, and it affects anyone who uses it. That moment is like a moment to create joy. Similarly, if you work in artificial intelligence and you are building algorithms that help detect certain activities, and you're not asking important questions about institutional bias and whether the learning algorithms you have are perpetuating that bias, you're not perpetuating joy. You're not pushing your aura out. Your aura is only as good, and all these values are only as good as far as you can push them. Which gets really complicated. Because anytime you decide to do one thing, it necessarily affects something else. There's sort of I've seen very few decisions in this space that are always win-win-win, that have no cost anywhere. If I take it back to the very simple example of the twine slide hammock thing, that was a lot of twine. I mean, it was. Not only did it cost me a lot of money, like buy all that twine, but also like there's an environmental impact. I mean, I still have all that twine. I use it for decor all over my house. I mean, reuse, but still, there was an impact. It also, I think, like created this sort of like weird experience for some people who were afraid of heights, who like tried to get on the hammock and then just totally freaked out. And the question is like, where are we creating beauty? Who are we creating it for? Who has access to it? How are we building it? And all of those questions require trade-offs. This is like one of the questions that I struggle with, that I don't know how to solve. And I'm sharing with you because there are 100 questions that none of us know how to solve, including how to cure cancer, how to beat climate change. This one is Wayne County, which is a little black dot right there. It's very bad for girls of average income. It turns out that it's only better than about 15% of counties, i.e. if you're an average income girl in Wayne County, Indiana, it is highly unlikely you will ever become anything else than that. You will never leave Wayne County, Indiana. You will never make more money than average income, and most likely you'll become less. You will earn less money. And that's where I came from. And in my high school, 52% of the people dropped out. And I don't know how to solve this problem. So I'm thinking about it. And now I'm gonna conduct an experiment. How many people have used a dishwasher? Great, excellent. How many people have used a dishwasher in partnership with someone else, a roommate, a partner? Right. How many times have you disagreed on the best way to fill a dishwasher? Great, okay. How many people believe there is actually a best way to fill a dishwasher? Okay, all right. Who believes there's something else going on there? Anybody? Okay. So I am one of these very few people who believe that there is a beautiful science of happening around the dishwasher, and I don't mean the most efficient way to fill it. I mean, like, there are so many ways to fill it. You can fill it in the way that's the prettiest, the way that's the fastest, the way that holds the most things, the way that's the same week to week, or the way that changes every week, and you have to find things. Like, I think that there's a whole world in the dishwasher, And the reality is that to solve these problems that are complicated, especially the ones that we want to use artificial intelligence and technology to do, we have to be trying to fill the dishwasher with the most efficient ways, with the most creative ways, the most beautiful ways. We have to be doing it together. And I'm gonna skip this, not worth it. Because all of this doesn't matter if we don't apply it to the things that do. Like all of this work, all these long hours, if you guys are in tech, you're probably working crazy hours like me. Like, it doesn't matter if at the end of it, we haven't done anything to make the world any better, and the only problems left to solve are the hardest ones to solve. And that is why this matters. But more than that, and the reason I come to talk to you guys, share this with you, like, this matters. It matters, like, that we have an aura together. It's a big enough cloud of conversation that we have 5 different people who have an opinion on how to fill the dishwasher so that we can actually do it a different way than we've done it before.